Hello, everyone. You're welcome to Inside Montessori with Tolu. Thank you for your consistency. Thank you for always joining in. And I really want to say a big thank you to all of you who have remained consistent each um, day we choose to have this program. Right? So I want to begin by saying good evening, distinguished educators, school leaders, parents, Montessori guides, our friends, child enthusiasts joining us from different parts of the world. You're welcome. On behalf of Datoluminds Montessori International, I warmly welcome you to another inspiring edition of Montessori with Tolu. And our goal on this platform is to engage in meaningful conversations with leading Montessori experts who are transforming education through authentic Montessori practice. As you know, my name is Tolu Albert. I am the founder and director of Datoluminds Montessori International. I am delighted to be your host once again this evening. Today's topic is one that touches the heart of Montessori education, and the preparation of the adult is what mirrors who the child is going to become. And as you know, the topic of today is the prepared adults, the greatest missing link in Montessori practice. How the adult unconsciously disrupts concentration, independence, and development. Many of us usually invest in beautiful Montessori materials, carefully prepared environment. Yet, Dr. Maria Montessori has reminded us that the greatest preparation is not the environment, it's the adult. Because it is an informed adult that prepares an environment that suits all that the child needs for his holistic development. So, this evening, we will explore our attitudes, our habits, our words, and action. Either we want to see if those action is or those actions that we display, those things that happen in our classroom, the behavior we put out when a child does what you feel is a misbehavior. By the way, we know that every behavior of a child is a communication, right? So um, we want to see today if what you're doing with the child in your care as a parent or as the adult, as a guide in a prepared environment, is either supporting or hindering the child's development. And guess what? I have an honor to be hosting one very passionate Montessorian I've known all my life. It's my great honor, really, and it's a privilege for me to introduce our guest speaker. She's practically called Mama Monte, Mrs. Ayopeju Falekulo. She is one of Nigeria's foremost Montessori educators and an internationally respected voice in Montessori education. By the way, you know that we don't bring people here who are not certified. She is an internationally certified Montessori consultant, an AMI 6 to 12 guide. I know many times when we come on this platform, you will hear people say, what is AMI? What is AMI? That is the body that's protecting Maria Montessori's work, right? So AMI just stands for American Montessori International. She holds a master's degree in Montessori education, so you know you know what you are getting yourself ready for, right? From the University of Girona, Spain. And she has over 25 years of experience. She's the founder of Adlo Montessori School, the director of studies at Adlo Edu Resource Academy Limited. She's an author, a literacy advocate, a mentor, an educational innovator whose passion has transformed countless teachers, schools, and children. Ma, I will bring you on shortly. I want to say thank you sincerely for honoring our invitation. I'm deeply grateful. We are deeply grateful as a team for your love and willingness to share your wisdom with educators around the world. So, if you are hearing me right now and you've not told your friend, that teacher that is in your school as a school owner, your teachers, you've not sent the link to them, or there are parents that you feel that they really need this, because Montessori prepared environment is not basically just the school environment. We have Montessori practice at home as well, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mrs. Ayopeju Falekulo. You're welcome, Ma. Good evening, Ma. We
Good
are happy to have
evening.
you.
Thank you so much for having me on your program today. Hello, everybody. I hope we're
Hello,
all
Ma.
excited, and I'm looking forward to being able to deliver as much as I can for you today.
Okay, so thank you so much, Ma. So I will be giving you the floor, after which I will come back to ask some questions and then we'll call it a wrap. Thank you so much, Ma. I will be
Okay.
in the background.
All right, then. Well, good evening, everybody. We have quite a lot to go through today, so we're going to start immediately. Okay, so the topic is the prepared adult, the greatest missing link in Montessori practice. How the adult unconsciously disrupts concentration, independence, and development. Well, a very well known educator once said, if education is to be transformed, it is not the child who must be transformed first, it is the adult. Now, most of us Montessorians will think that it was actually Maria Montessori who said this, because this speaks to the heart of Montessori. Today, I want us to consider something. In our Montessori settings, the greatest challenge facing Montessori education today is not the lack of materials. It is not the lack of beautiful classrooms. It's not even the lack of Montessori schools. The greatest challenge we are facing today is the unprepared adult. This topic, in many ways, goes to the heart of Montessori education. I would even argue that Montessori materials, beautiful environment, mixed age classrooms, which are important hallmarks of Montessori settings, cannot compensate for an adult who has not undergone inner transformation. This inner transformation is something that is encouraged when adults train as Montessorians, when they go to Montessori school to go and train to be a 3 to 6 teacher, or to be a 6 to 12 teacher. There's always that call for a transformation of the adult. And if this does not happen, then we don't have a Montessori setting, really. Montessori herself repeatedly stated that the greatest obstacle to the child's development is not the child. The problem is not the child. The problem is the adult. Many schools will proudly display Montessori signboards outside for all to see. And inside, there are shelves stacked with numerous Montessori materials. The children work with the Montessori materials. The teachers wear Montessori badges proudly. I am a Montessori directress. I'm a Montessori teacher. Yet, when you observe and look at what is going on in the classroom, you will see that the children are still dependent. They still cannot concentrate. Some of them learn in fear. And this is obvious to everybody watching what is going on. The children still wait to be told what to do all the time. Why? This is not the way the Montessori classrooms are supposed to be. The children are supposed to be learning. They're supposed to be able to go and choose their work. They're not waiting around for somebody to give them something to do. If the teacher has to be called out for a few minutes the children can still continue working. They don't need somebody in there saying, keep quiet, don't run around. You know the ways classrooms are in the traditional setting. When we were children, immediately the teacher is out of the classroom. It's a completely different ball game. But the thing there is that with Montessori children, it should be different. So, what is it that we're not really doing right for this to still be the case in Montessori schools? Well, usually it's because the adult unknowingly is interrupting the very developmental process that Montessori discovered. Today, if we are Montessori educators who want to be prepared and not unprepared, let's do this. I would like us to honestly examine ourselves because that is the call. When you train, the call is to examine yourself, and you have to do it yourself. No one is going to do it for you. The changes that adults make when they train as Montessorians are done by the adults themselves. That first work, they say, Maria Montessori calls it the spiritual preparation of the teacher. You have to do it yourself. Yes, it will be introduced to you, questions will be asked, but you need to answer those questions yourself. I want us to examine ourselves, not so much as to make us feel guilty. I will be examining myself as well as we go through this. We will look at the following to help us in this quest. First, we'll look at understanding the child, then understanding discipline. We will consider why adults are often unprepared. We'll look at the spiritual preparation of the teacher. What does that look like? And then why ongoing training is so important. Understanding the child is the first thing. One of the most important aspects of Montessori education is the fundamental element of understanding the child. For me, if you do not understand the child, then there is no Montessori going on in your classroom. There is no Montessori going on in the school. There are other elements that are important, like the environment and the teacher. In fact, I teach that there are three elements, three main pillars. We have the teacher, we have the environment, and we have the child. But if there is no proper understanding of the child, Montessori education falls apart even before we have begun. Maria Montessori asked us to do something revolutionary. What was that? She asked us to follow the child. Notice that she did not say follow the curriculum or the timetable or lesson plans. No, she said follow the child. Why did she say this? Because the child is constructing himself. It is the child that is doing the work. Adults tend to accumulate knowledge and they want to pour that knowledge into children, but that is not our job. Our job is to inspire the child. The child is the one that is doing the work. The child is the one that is constructing himself. He has to construct himself. We cannot open up his brain and put the information there. The child needs to want to learn, and children want to learn. They are wired to learn. So let's not think that we have to open up their brain. No. Children are not empty containers waiting to be filled. They are active builders of their own personalities. When we fail to understand this, we begin to interfere. We will talk about the interference in a little while. But first, let's consider what is the child's real work. Adults think work is producing something. Children, on the other hand, their work is producing themselves. So we kind of like look at the product, that there must be a result. But the child, the result is within themselves. When a child repeatedly pours water, for example, The adult just sees that the child is pouring water. But for the child, he is pouring water and continuing to pour that water over and over again. And you notice that children do this a lot. Repetition, especially 3 to 6 year olds, they're trying to learn how to do something. They will do it over and over again. The child is developing coordination, concentration, order, confidence, independence. When a child repeats a particular activity over and over again, maybe even up to 15 times, and still keeps going, the adult is thinking, is enough now? The child thinks, no, it's not enough. I'm still building myself. Adults often stop the very work that is developing the child. So let us calm down. That's why I said, if we do not understand children, if we don't understand where they're coming from, then Montessori won't happen, because we won't understand why Maria Montessori says, follow the child. We won't understand why they are allowed to go and pick up work from the shelf. And when they pick up work from the shelf, they've done it once, they do it over and over again. And we're thinking, this child is wasting time. The other children that want to use this material, let them stop, and we stop them. We are cutting into their concentration, and concentration is sacred. Montessori called concentration the foundation of character. Everything begins here. Building confidence, discipline, executive functioning, problem solving, persistence. All these aspects grow from concentration. Yet, adults interrupt children's concentration constantly in the classroom, constantly at home. That's why Montessori wanted us to respect these children, understand them so you can respect them. Now, let's look at how we disturb, how we interrupt and interfere with the concentration and development of the child. Some few examples. Imagine this. You have a 4-year-old that is cleaning a shelf. He has repeated the actions 6 times and he will not stop. But as you observe, his movements have slowed. His breathing is calm. His mind is completely engaged. Suddenly, Joshua, come. It's time for you to do your maths lesson. Concentration is broken. Or we say to the child, good job, well done, excellent, wow. Even praise interrupts concentration because the child's attention shifts from the work to the adult. Another example. A child is struggling to button his coat. He's been at it for a few minutes. And the adult says, here, let me help you. You don't have time. You're wasting time. The child was just 1 second away from success. Instead, we steal competence by interrupting. Another child is carefully carrying a glass jug, and it looks like he could slip. But he's not slipping. We just think that, this child with this glass jug is going to break it. We panic. Be careful. Hold it properly. Don't spill. The child becomes afraid. Fear replaces confidence. These are the few examples I want to give about this. But we're always interfering. We're always cutting them off. They are trying to concentrate. They're trying to find themselves. They're trying to build themselves. But when we impatiently interrupt, the concentration is broken and the skills that the child is supposed to be developing is fast eroding because the adult is not prepared. Montessori once wrote that every unnecessary help is an obstacle to development. So let's ask ourselves, how often do we unknowingly become that obstacle? Let's move on. Understanding discipline. One of Montessori's most misunderstood ideas is discipline. Most adults think discipline means obedience, but that's not what Montessori meant. She described discipline as something built from within. To tell you the truth, one of the main reasons why I got into Montessori was this particular thing about discipline. Because I know I've been looking after children for a long time. I started off in the church. And I know that children, they will do what you say when you are there. But once you leave, then they start doing something else. But then I noticed that within the Montessori setting, the goal really is for the child to learn to do things properly themselves. True discipline is self-discipline. That's self-control that Montessori instills in the child. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. But if you're patient, you will get there. It's much better because it lasts a lifetime. That's what Montessori discipline is all about. It grows naturally, even when children are trying to experience meaningful work. They're given freedom within limits. They're allowed to repeat their activities. They grow in their concentration. They gain responsibility and they take responsibility. And when the child does this, you get a self-disciplined child. What adults usually do is this. We try to create obedience. No. Montessori teaches us to cultivate self-control in the child. They are not the same thing. Obedience and self-control, they are different. Obedience says, I behave because someone is watching. Self-discipline says, I behave because I have internal control. Many adults confuse a quiet classroom with discipline. But children can be silent and yet not be disciplined. They actually are frightened because maybe the teacher has a cane in front of her. And they know that if they don't keep quiet, that cane is coming for them. I will never forget a day that I went into a classroom. This was before I became a Montessorian, before I studied Montessori. I remember going into a classroom and the children were between a year and a half and 2 years old. It was a toddler class. Some of the children were still in diapers. And the teacher, I noticed immediately I got in that all the children were seated on their chairs, their hands on the table, their heads on the table, and they were watching me. The teacher was saying, oh, we have a visitor in today. The children were just looking at me, but these were babies. Even me, that I was not Montessori trained, even at that point, I knew that must be something wrong somewhere. Why are these children seated there? They're not moving. They're just looking. And then I looked at the teacher. I saw the cane in her hand. I thought, okay, this is what we do to these children. So let's not confuse a quiet classroom with discipline. No, the children are frightened, so they will obey. And they still lack self-control because the minute you leave that classroom, they will start shouting and screaming. And that's not what you want. You want children who are self-regulated. But you cannot develop self-regulation through scaring the children with beating and caning. You kuku know me. I mean, I tell you the truth. Stop beating these children. Stop screaming at them. I know most of us are not using the cane anymore. At least I hope we're not. But screaming and shouting at them does not help either. There are other ways to get the children to do what needs to be done. Real discipline develops when children make choices themselves. When you allow them to experience the consequences of their actions, the consequences of their decisions, when they're allowed to solve problems themselves, don't solve all their problems for them. They need to learn to repair their mistakes and gradually learn to regulate themselves. Okay, so why are adults unprepared? We don't want unprepared adults, we want a prepared adult. But why are we sometimes unprepared? Now, let me ask us this uncomfortable question. Why do adults interfere so much? Well, usually it's because we're not properly prepared. They're still going back to the same thing. We inherited and experienced a different kind of education. Most adults were educated through control, competition, rewards and punishment, comparisons, fear of making mistake. That was our default. That is what we understood. But there needs to be a change. We say to the children, sit properly, hurry up, don't touch. Good boy, good girl. We do this not because we are bad people, but because that is what was modeled to us. So we do the same thing. Adults are uncomfortable with struggle. Have you ever noticed when children struggle, the adults around them become very anxious? We don't want them to struggle. We confuse struggle with failure. Yet struggle is where learning happens. They must struggle, they must make mistakes. Everything cannot go right. Then we must fail and then stand up and go again, make another attempt, and eventually the child will win. But when the child struggles and we are there, we've already sorted out the problem for them, the child learns nothing. Struggle is where learning happens. Another thing with us adults, we love efficiency. We want things to be done quickly. Have you ever noticed when a child, first of all, picks up the broom and is allowed to sweep? The child will sweep, he will get the dustpan, collect the rubbish with the collect the rubbish with the dustpan, and then pour it all out again and start cleaning up all over again. The adult wants speed, but the child loves repetition. Children need that process to learn how to get things done. The efficiency-seeking adult thinks, finish now. You finished, stop wasting time. The child is thinking internally, I need to repeat it so that I can learn how to do it properly. Remember that the cry of your 3 to 6-year-old, for example, is, let me do it myself. Show me how to do it myself. I can do it myself. To develop the skill to do it themselves, they need to know the process and they need the time to develop the skill. Adults measure products like worksheets, writing progress, reciting 1 to 300, for example. Some parents come, even at Tolu, we find some parents that want to bring their children into the school and they're telling us that This my 3-year-old. By the time they finish that nursery one, they must be writing 1 to 300. And I'm saying to them, I'm sorry, we don't do that here. We do not write 1 to 300. It's not one of the things, and we have to go through what the children can do and cannot do, and what we won't do and why we won't do it. Not in a rude way, but helping the child to be the parents, sorry, to begin to understand their children, the needs of the child. Montessori measures the development, observes the child, watches out for development. That is the difference. To be prepared means you are not measuring by the child can write 1 to 300, can recite 1 to 1,000. No. How much development are you getting with this child? What skills is the child developing? Are they learning how to concentrate, for example? How independent is the child? How much executive functioning is going on? And you can tell by the different activities that the child is doing what is going on. Observe these children. Where was the child at the beginning of the term? Where is the child now at the end of the term? And by the end of the year, you can see the change. Because we have children that we look after in the Montessori setting for 3 years. If you are running a mixed age setting, and it was the same teacher that taught that child in nursery 1, and now the child is in nursery 3, you can see the changes. It's the development that we're after. If the child is developing well, you're doing really great. Okay, so what is the spiritual preparation of the adult all about? Preparing the adult. This may be the most important part of today's discussion. Montessori repeatedly spoke about the spiritual preparation of the teacher. Notice, she did not begin with technique. She did not say the teacher must learn how to handle the materials, must know the curriculum. No, she began with transformation. The first material in every Montessori classroom is the adult. Children read us constantly. They're looking at how stressed we are, how impatient we may be. They can feel our anxiety, our irritation. They know when we are calm, when we're joyful. The prepared adult is different from the unprepared adult. So the prepared adult needs to work on themselves. You see, most of the time, we concentrate on knowing the Montessori materials. That the Montessori materials is very important to us. So we learn how to present them. And some people are so insistent. It must be, you must hold it this way. You must do this. Okay, fine. You know all those things. And the rest of us that don't know all those things, your classroom is not the classroom of Montessori children. They are still traditional children in a Montessori classroom. We don't want that. There are other things to take seriously, like your spiritual preparation. You prepare mentally, that is your materials, that is the curriculum, that is philosophy. So that is knowledge, is intelligence, and that is what we usually spend our time learning when we go for Montessori training. But no, there are two other things that we must develop, and those are preparing ourselves spiritually and also daily preparation. We need these two things. spiritual preparation, daily preparation. All those ones that we used to pass the exam, that is just intellectual. But you see, the spiritual preparation is even the most important thing to Maria Montessori. That teacher, if the teacher is spiritually prepared, that teacher is asking questions. Why am I interrupting this child? It looks like I'm rushing. Why am I rushing? Why am I asking for immediate results? I need to give this child time to imbibe what they're learning. Why don't I want the children to make mistakes? They need to make mistakes so that they can learn from their mistakes. Am I speaking too much? Why do I correct everything? And some of our parents are guilty with this. We want every single mistake that our child made to be corrected. No. Does that mean you shouldn't correct? You should correct. Please do correct the child. But you need to do all these things from the point of understanding the child. If you are spiritually prepared, you are somebody who has trained yourself to become a humble person. We need humility in the work that we do. Spiritual preparation means learning how to be patient, being observant, learning to be silent sometimes, restraining ourselves, learning to trust the child to do the right thing, learning to respect the child, which we find very difficult to understand, learning to remove our ego from everything that is going on in the classroom, especially when these children misbehave. Step back, ask yourself, why is the child behaving this way? It's information. Try and find the why instead of getting upset. Sometimes doing less is actually better teaching. Montessori said that the teacher should become almost invisible, not absent, not passive, but intentionally unobstructive, unobtrusive. The prepared adult knows when to step in and when to step back. That wisdom cannot be learned from materials. They cannot be learned from materials. It takes time and intentionality on our part. Okay, so why is training so important? Preparation is never finished. Being a prepared adult is not a one-time thing. Teachers often attend one Montessori course and assume that they are prepared. Let me tell you something. I have done about 3 or 4 Montessori 3 to 6 trainings, and in each one, I learned something different. In each one, I became more and more prepared. If I just relied on the one, I wouldn't be where I am today, but I did several, and I did them for a reason. The same thing with 6 to 12. I've done 3. I've not completed one of the 3, but to date, I've done 2 that is completed. That's the way it rolls. None of us ever fully arrives. Every new child will teach us something. Every classroom exposes another weakness in ourselves. Continuous preparation will help us to reflect, observe, question, and improve. Schools should invest in continual transformation of the teachers. I am talking to myself as well, not just to you. This will be applicable to Adlu. I'm actually even very happy that I was asked to speak on this because it's showing me some things that I need to concentrate on in the school. So it's not just about presenting materials, but do our teachers know how to observe? Are we observing? Do we wait? How are we communicating with ourselves and with the children? Do we reflect over what we have done during the day, during the week, during the term? Do we know how to regulate emotions? Can we help the children regulate emotions? If we can't help ourselves, we can't help the children. Do we build respectful relationships with ourselves and the children? The children are watching. A Montessori school without continual adult preparation slowly becomes a traditional school with Montessori materials. This is food for thought for all of us, I am sure. In conclusion, I would like to leave you with one final picture. Imagine a seed. When it fails to grow, do we blame the seed? No. We examine the soil, the water, the light, the environment. What went wrong? Children are no different. If independence is not developing, if concentration is weak, if confidence is missing, look at the adults. This is not to blame the adult, but to help the adult be better, to help the adult prepare. The child is waiting for an adult who knows when to help and when to trust, who knows when to speak and when to remain silent. The child is looking for that adult who understands that education is not the filling up of their mind, but the unfolding of a human being. I would like to ask us to reflect on the following as we conclude our time together today. Am I teaching the child or am I controlling the child? Do I observe more than I interrupt in my classroom or at home? Do I trust the child's developmental timetable or am I working with my own idea of what their timetable should be? Would my classroom function better if I spoke maybe 30% less? Am I preparing lessons more carefully than I am preparing myself? Hmm. As Montessori reminded us, the greatest sign of success for a teacher is to be able to say, the children are now working as if I did not exist. May we all continue preparing ourselves, not only intellectually, but emotionally, spiritually, and professionally, so that every child entrusted to our care can reveal the person they were created to become. Thank you.
What a thought provoking session. Thank you so much, Ma.
You're
This
welcome.
one, this session is going to be one of the unforgettable sessions. Who is with me on this? Let me see your emojis in the comment section. This is mind blowing. This is informative. This is loaded. This is enlightening. This is a deep, enriching presentation. On behalf
Thank
of
you.
Datoluminds Montessori International and our global audience, I sincerely want to appreciate you, Ma, for sharing not only the knowledge, but also, not only your knowledge, but you shared from your wealth of experience, practical wisdom, and unwavering commitment to authentic teacher preparation in the Montessori education. This presentation reminded us that when we often focus on just preparing the environment, um, having Montessori materials in our school, the true work actually begins with preparing ourselves as adults. Thank you, Ma, for challenging us to reflect. Thank you so much, Ma, for challenging us to grow and become better guides for children entrusted in our care. We actually mirror what the child sees as as the right development, the right character, the right behavior, right? So we are the one that they look up to. And today we have seen that it begins with us. It begins with us. And you said something at the tail end. You said the success of a teacher is when the teacher can say that the children now work as if I don't exist. Yes, I know that's from absorbing mind, but this one eats a lot because many teachers today have come to believe that education is just impacting. I was saying something to the students at Datoluminds today that it's only conventional schools, schools that are not equipped, that would say that education is impacting knowledge. It goes
Mm.
beyond that. It's an holistic development of a child, and that is from a place of understanding. Thank you so much, Ma. But because of our time at this point, Ma, with your permission, I would like to ask a few questions I believe would help our audience connect today's presentation with realities they encounter in their classrooms and in their
Mm.
homes. So, my first question today is one of the greatest struggles actually or for Montessori teachers and parents is knowing when to step back and when to intervene, of which you mentioned. So how can an adult distinguish between necessary guidance and unnecessary interference, especially when a child appears to be struggling? That's the first question, Ma. You have the floor, Ma.
Okay. Well, this is a very easy one, although it can be difficult for us as we start this journey. The first thing to consider when the child is struggling is this: is the child struggling because they can't do it? Is the child struggling because they're trying to do it? They're getting it done, but it's not as fast as they would like. At this point, I would not actually interrupt the child. Now, at the point where I may decide to interrupt is where I see that the child is getting frustrated, the child is getting emotional, the child can't get it done, and it's more they can't get it done that you can't feel those vibes. Because I gave that example in the talk where the child was trying to do some buttoning, and just at the moment where the child was going to get it done, the adult interrupts and gets it done for the child. That is not the way to do it. Why? The question to ask is, why do I want to interrupt? Am I interrupting because the child is really struggling and the child is frustrated? Or am I interrupting because the child is wasting time and I need to get out of here right now? There is a reason why we interrupt. Most of the time is because the child is taking too long and we just want it to be done. That is adults. We need to learn to slow down for the child. But if the child is getting frustrated, then by all means, please interrupt and help the child, and then later go back and teach the child what to do.
Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you so much, Ma. So quickly, I will go to the next question. I believe we are having a wonderful time. Yes, some people are already dropping their questions, of which I will read later. Thank you so much. Ma, I want to ask a second question. Many educators today observe children um, today, many educators observe children today struggle with concentration, and that spans from the usual screen time, overstimulation, and increasing academic pressure, of which we don't have in the Montessori setting, by the way, in a proper Montessori setting, by the way. Now, how can a prepared adult, especially parents, right, rebuild deep concentration without relying on reward, punishment, or constant reminder? I started to ask this question because I've had a lot of them. And so many people believe that if you want to gain a child's concentration, you have to bribe them. Either you bribe them by being harsh on the tougher side, or you bribe them by being too nice. And then many people don't actually understand that none of this is needed for concentration. So, Ma, I want to hear from you, Ma. I mean, how can a prepared adult rebuild this concentration without relying on any of this, Ma?
Okay, well, one of the first things, because most of the time that this situation is obvious, is when you are at home and maybe the children are allowed to spend time watching the screen for too long. You need to change what the children are doing in the house. That's the first thing. But then, as Maria Montessori said, follow the child. You want to stop a child from watching telly. You need to know that child very well. What is the child interested in? That will be the first thing that I will attack. I had a child in my school a long time when we just started. No matter whatever you said, this child did not want to learn a one, two, three. All the other children will be counting different objects. This child will go and be playing with something else. No, you call the child does not want to hear. Do you know what I did? I asked the parent, I said, what is it that your child is interested in? The parent said Ben 10. I said, okay. So I went online. I downloaded Ben 10 watches. I laminated the watches, cut them out, and brought them into the classroom and said to the child, come, I have something interesting I want to show you today. So the child came and saw Ben 10. The child was really, really excited. I let the child play with the Ben 10. And then the next day, I now said, come, I want to show you something with Ben 10. Do you know that this is how this child learned how to count? He did not use the other. It was that Ben 10 watches that he used to learn how to count. He used to learn a lot of things before he now got interested in learning, because he could now read Ben 10 and understood, because I taught him the sounds with with Ben 10. And then he now realized that, oh, if I know the other sounds, I'll be able to read some other things. So that was how this child got into learning. So know your children, get them interested in what they're interested in. You don't need to give them anything. They will learn because they are born to learn, but you have to find that hook. It's finding the hook. That's what we call it, hook. Find the hook, whatever the child is interested in, and then you'll get the child.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Ma. This thing that you said now happened to me some days back. The same, a child in my classroom too, she loves all of these Disney princesses. And we were going to do ordinal numbers, first, second, third. And I just brought all the ones that she drew, about 10 of them. And then we started placing the first, the second. That was how she learned it. So really, what you said works perfectly. You have to
It
know
does.
your child, you have to know their interests, and then you start building their learning from there. Thank you so much, Ma. So I'll go
You're
to the next question, Ma. I hope yes.
That's fine.
So okay, thank you so much, Ma. The fourth question says Dr. Montessori spoke extensively of about the spiritual and emotional preparation of the adult, and you actually spoke extensively on that. How do stress, impatience, fear, and perfectionism in adults affect child's development? You said that one. But what practical steps can teachers and parents take to prepare themselves emotionally? Ma, this question is very deep to me because I believe that many adults today are acting out from trauma. And some of the time, they cannot help themselves. So, how would adults help themselves in scenarios like this and function effectively, knowing that the children are absorbing them daily and this is building their personality? So, how would an adult help themselves?
Okay, this is a question. I hope that the people involved will not be angry. I'm not going to mention any names, but I've had a situation where um, one of the adults in our setting was emotionally inappropriate in the actions taken towards a child. And once we were able to resolve this with the parents, with the child, I took some action against the adults, but did not take extreme action. And one of the things that I did was to get the adult help, to get somebody to coach the adult with emotional intelligence, understanding why they were reacting the way they were reacting. You have to understand yourself. Sometimes you go for Montessori training, and there are a lot of things that if you actually do what you're asked to do, because you get a lot of questions that you have to go and answer yourself. Some of us ignore those and just answer them. But if you do the work, you will find that there are issues that you need to deal with in your life. Sometimes you need a coach that knows what they are doing to help you. These are things that we don't do and we need to do, because most of us do not have the EI that we need to be teachers in the classroom. This is the issue. So we need to get help. If we do not get the help, we're not going to be able to be who we need to be for the children. And the same thing applies to parents. We've gone through so much in our lives. If we cannot get the help, we need help. I have done NLP training, so I know, and even now I can't even remember which one it is. But I have done training to help me understand how to help adults. But when I think about all the things that I am working on, I don't have the time to add that one to what is in my court right now. So I would rather my teachers get help from somebody who is also trained, who knows what to do. And this is what the adults need. I can't say anything more than that. Get a coach, sort yourself out, and do the work. We need to do the work. Some of us are not ready to do that work, but if you do the work, there will be change.
Thank you so much, Ma. And to buttress that, I feel teachers also have to go through social emotional learning. They can go through courses as well. Yeah, because those things are what builds the skill that you need. And one thing I want to also add to what Mommy said is many Montessori centers, they just teach presentation, they teach materials, they don't take people through self-development. And if you go through a proper Montessori, you'll find out that it changes your mindset as a person, not just material presentation. So if you are here and maybe you've gone through one Montessori that just prepares, shows you materials and all of that, please go ahead to retrain. Retrain. You heard mommy, she has gone through 3 phases. I've also gone to trainings. It changes your mindset and equips you with everything that you need. Thank you, mommy. Thank you so much, ma. I would like to ask the fifth question, which is almost two more after that. Ma, teachers are often caught between remaining faithful to Montessori principles and meeting parents' expectation to quick academic results. Ma, this particular one is always here. You have school owners come and they're like, the parents are telling me, what is all this? Why all this multi-age classroom? What is my children are supposed to be writing 1 to 100 at 3? And then these people are under pressure. The first thing I always say sometimes is, what is your purpose of starting a Montessori school? Because if you don't know your why, there's going to be a challenge. They are going to wash you. All right. So my question is, how can Montessori educators balance these competing expectations while maintaining the integrity of authentic Montessori practice, ma?
It's very easy. You know, one of the first things I mentioned is understanding the child. When a parent walks into your school, when they walk into Adlu, one of the first things that we do is we tell them what Montessori education is and what it is not. So that they, and even though you tell them, they are still going to come back to meet you. Don't think that because you have given them a 30-minute lecture on what you will not be doing in the school, you have told them that it's mixed age classes, they will still come back and meet you. Maybe they like the school, so they like all the materials they saw, so they will bring the child. But then very soon, they'll be like, my 4-year-old and my 3-year-old, they are in the same classroom now. Why? They cannot be in the same class. So then they will not, then I have to take them back to, remember when you came? Remember what we talked about? Why did we say they have, we have mixed age classes? You will have to go through the whole thing over and over again with them. But you know, one thing that has helped us is having a termly time with the parents that we call
Mhm.
Montessori at home, where we talk to the parents about what Montessori is. We try and bring different things to the fore for them, understanding how to discipline their children, understanding why we don't beat their children. We've had one parent remove their child from our school because we didn't beat the boy. They said that we should be beating the boy, and we refused to beat the boy. They removed the child. You need to help your parents understand what you are doing. If you don't, they will carry their children and go. If you have helped them to understand and they still carry their children and go, please, I will tell you, let them go. Let them go. But the ones that you have with you, it is your responsibility to educate them. If you do not educate them, that is when they will now come to you and start telling you that one child can read 1 to 1,000 and their own child only knows 1 to 10. What is going on? Even in England, 4 to 5-year-olds do not learn more than 1 to 10 that they are complaining about. And their child is 3 years old. They are complaining that the child only knows 1 to 10. The child needs to know 1 to 10 before they can know the rest of the decimal. Because if they don't know 1 to 10 and they don't know how those numbers are built, which is what we give the child, that's why Montessori children that are properly trained will never struggle with place value. Yes, they may not know 1 to 1,000 that the other child knows, but by the time they get to primary school and they're doing place value, is a walk in the park for a Montessori child who has been properly taught. So for me, Montessori is not slow. It's not slow. There are skills that the child is learning. So you help the parents to see, when we do Montessori at home, some terms, all we do is we will tell them, please, can your child come to school with you? We usually do it on a Saturday, but we will ask for the children to come. The children will do presentations. We don't do the presentations for the parents. It's the children that will do the presentation. The parents will be like, ah, you mean my child can do this? Hey, me, I wish I went to school like this. So this is not how they taught us. They calm down. They calm down once they see what it is that you are doing, but not letting them see what you are doing. That's when they will be comparing to other children. By the time they see what you are doing and then they talk to the other children, they're able to tell, okay, yes, that child was singing Baba Black Sheep, but my own child can sing the words. That child is just saying la 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 la. But my child is actually singing and I can hear each word. Then they can decipher and say, okay, this is what makes Montessori different, and I like it. Show them what you are doing.
Thank you so much, Ma. Did you hear that? Show them what you're doing. That's so beautiful. Ma, number 6, and then the last. From more from your more than 25 years of experience training educators, Ma, what aspect of preparing the adults do you find the most difficult to transform, and why?
Oh, very good question. You know that my training is mostly online, so it's very difficult. I don't really do that much, except that In the handouts that I give you, I've given you all the questions that you need. In the talks that I do, we do reviews. When you ask me questions like this, you will get your answers from me. Some take it seriously, some don't. And even from my own training, it's been the same thing. You're given the information, you're given the questions, go and work on this, go and work on that, write your journal. If you don't write your journal, if you don't do the reflection, there's no change that will come. So there are students who do the work and there are students who don't do the work. And you can tell the difference with the students who will get the work done and the students who will not get the work done. And therefore, they are not fit for purpose. You will be able to tell the difference. I once had a student, and this is, I've actually had many experiences in this, with this. I've had a teacher that was working with me. She learned how to present the materials. She knew the curriculum. There was nothing that you asked her that she could not answer, the philosophy, everything. But goodness, character did not change, and it was bad. Up to the point that I actually had to ask her to leave because of her bad character. But in terms of, did she know the materials? Yes, she was the best presenter I had. But the character, she did not transform. And when you don't transform, you're not really a Montessori teacher. You're not. You may have all the knowledge, you may know all the lessons that you're supposed to do in cultural subjects and practical life exercises. But if you yourself, you have not transformed, then I had another person who did her exam. Because our exams are online, do you know what my dear student did? She went and copied something online to answer my question because it was online. Sure, you see. I now said, I looked at the thing, immediately I could tell. This was many years ago. Immediately I saw that thing, I said, this student has never written anything like this before. Where, how come? So I now did a plagiarism check, and lo and behold, over 90% of what she wrote was plagiarized. This is a Montessori. I did not certify her. Till date, she did not get any certificate from me. She begged and begged. I said, no, you will come back and repeat this exam. If you are not ready to repeat the exam, and you will do it sitting in front of me, since you cannot be trusted, do it in front. She never came back. So is that a Montessori teacher? And there are a lot of people that we train that are like that. So this is the issue. They either transform or they don't transform. But even when they transform, even when we transform, we are not totally transformed. So we must continue to train ourselves. That's the other thing. Because I have 6 to 12 training, and I've done it several times, does not mean that I'm an expert. Train yourself. Continue to prepare yourself. That's my answer.
Thank you so much, Ma. As you said, continue to prepare yourself. I also remember that when we look at the history of Maria Montessori, she was always going back to learn. And that is one thing I keep saying to people: don't sit somewhere. And here is mommy saying it to us again: don't sit somewhere. Keep developing yourself. And that's what makes you exceptional as a parent or as a teacher. This one question I want to ask before we call it a close. If every educator and parent listening today could take one thing, just one practical principle away from your presentation, what will you want them to begin practicing immediately when they return to their classrooms and homes?
Hmm. I would like them probably to look into being spiritually prepared for their classrooms, for their homes. Are they actually able to do right by the child?
Hmm.
Asking themselves, am I interrupting this child a lot? Am I talking too much? Because even when you stop and observe yourself, you reflect on what you're doing, and you can ask yourself questions. You will be able to start changing. Even the child will see the difference, and that's what we want, the transformation. Observing yourself. Am I interrupting? Am I talking too much? Even those two things can help. If the cry of your young child is show me how to do it, are you actually showing the child how to do it? Or are you talking too much and interrupting the child as the child is doing it? If you start that way, you will see that the relationship with the child will change. The ability of the child being able to learn will increase, and the concentration skills of the child would improve. And that's what we want.
Please, I want to see your emojis, your clap emojis. Mommy, thank you so much. We are honored to have you. Thank you so much for your inspiring presentation and for taking the time to answer these questions. We are truly grateful for your contribution to the Montessori community and for investing in Montessori educators and families around the world. It is an absolute honor to host you on Inside Montessori with Tolu. This session is one that we will not forget. You need to see the emojis already in the live session. Everyone is saying
Wow.
thank you. What a wonderful session. And everyone is being inspired. And I believe that we have been equipped with what we are taking into our classroom and into our homes. Now, to everyone who joined us live, thank you for investing your time in your personal and professional growth. And this is the reason why we started the Inside Montessori with Tolulokwe. We trust that today's session has challenged you, has inspired you, has equipped you to be a more prepared adult for the children in your care. But this one thing you would do for me, if you know this conversation has actually blessed you, please help us to reach more educators by subscribing to this channel, clicking the notification bell so that you don't miss any of our future conversations. Like the video now, share the session with fellow teachers, school owners here, share it with your teachers. Some of you come to me and then you say my teachers are a handful. This is what they need. Many of us school owners, we only have the knowledge. We don't give this information to our teachers, and then we expect them to do the best with our children. Share this session with fellow teachers, with school owners, with parents, with everyone passionate about authentic Montessori education. This support of yours will enable us to continue bringing world class Montessori experts to this platform. And we would love to hear from you. Please share in the comments what is your biggest takeaway? What is your biggest takeaway? And one thing that you know that you are going to change as a prepared adult after listening to today's presentation. And we look forward to reading your reflection. Once again, Mommy, thank you for honoring this invitation, Ma. And thank you to everyone who joins in from different parts of the world. Upon the next edition of Inside Montessori with Tolulokwe, keep learning, keep growing, and continue nurturing every child potential through authentic Montessori practice. Thank you all, and God bless you. Do have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much, Ma. We are
Thank
indeed
you.
grateful. God
Thank
bless
you
you,
for
Ma.
having me.
You're welcome, Ma. Do have a blessed evening.
You too. Thank you.